Thank you for meeting me here.
You know I had nowhere else to go.
Trouble in couples paradise?
Can we just get this over with?
You look lovely.
Likewise.
You ready to get back on that stage?
Depends. What are you gonna have me do?
Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome. Friendly, étranger, Ridley.
We've put a lot of work into this essay.
We'll talk for 10 minutes, then be on our way. Willkommen, bienvenue. Welcome. Enjoy your stay of our essay of Cabaret. Hello and welcome to Dykes with Mics, the channel where we combine two of our favorite topics, musical theater and hearing ourselves talk. I'm the MC.
And I'm Sally Bowles. And if you don't know who we are, that's not our problem. Because today we're here to talk about our show, Cabaret.
Cabaret the musical opened on Broadway on November 20th, 1966 at the Broadhurst Theater. It was adapted into a movie in 1972, revived for the Broadway stage in 1998, and then revived again in 2024.
What's interesting about Cabaret and its multiple stints on Broadway is that its messaging remains poignant when looking at the political state of our climate. The show denies ambivalence in favor of highlighting socio-political issues that are prominent at the time of the release, subtly tweaking itself each time to serve the nuance within each year the show is performed. A heightened focus is aimed towards not only the political issues mentioned, but the weight they carry within the show itself.
We're here to show you how each production of Cabaret utilizes its narrative, the character of yours truly, the MC, and the flexibility of its ending to connect to and comment on our society's relationship with politics.
The story of Cabaret takes place in the vibrant and glamorous Kit Kat Club located in Berlin, Germany in 1929 and 1930. The club features many eclectic performers, including notably the Masters of Ceremonies, or the MC, who acts as a performer in our world as well as a sort of tour guide for the audience as they are navigated through the nuances of the show's current circumstances. We first meet American man Cliff Bradshaw as he arrives in Berlin to write his novel. Cliff quickly falls in love with Kit Kat Club performer, yours truly, and the overall excitement that Berlin's nightlife provides. However, Cliff's affinity for Germany aptly deteriorates once he notices the rise of the Nazi regime and the effects it's having on those around him. We see how characters we met throughout the show, such as Jewish man Herr Schultz, boarding house owner Fräulein Schneider, and German smuggler Ernest Ludwig, react to this power shift and how it influences their decisions. Our story ends with Cliff leaving Berlin, resentful of his own ignorance towards Berlin's political climate at the time.
There was a cabaret, and there was a master of ceremonies, and there was a city called Berlin in a country called Germany, and it was the end of the world.
As for the rest of us, there have been multiple adaptations of our musical's ending to signify what happened to us after the events of the show, but more on that later.
Cabaret chastises its characters for their denial to open their eyes to what is going on in the world around them.
We may or may not see this with my refusal to leave the Kit Kat Club despite the growing danger in the city and my pregnancy. As well as Herr Schultz, who ignores the anti-Semitic hate growing around him, such as when he attributes a brick flying through his store as merely mischievous children.
It is only Cliff who is able to realize just how dire our situation is once it's too late.
However, when viewed in a more meta-theatrical lens, Cabaret places its audience in the same position as such characters and forces them to analyze their own complacency. The show's darker meaning hides behind a facade of cheeky jokes and flashy musical numbers, with hints of the growing political issues sprinkled throughout. However, once the show comes to its close, it strips away its glittery mask to leave nothing more than the brutal reality of 1930s Germany. Audiences spend most of Cabaret laughing along and allowing themselves to be entertained, only to be slapped in the face by the consequences of their idleness. By then, there is nothing any character or audience member can do to prevent what actions are bound to occur. The main message Cabaret is trying to send to its audience is to acknowledge what is happening around them and to fear ignorance and complacency for the repercussions that they hold.
We can see the behavior of the characters in Cabaret mimicked in our own world through many examples. One specific and recent occurrence was the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Public opinion on whether or not voting is a civic duty is already a divisive talking point.
One example we saw was a conversation that took place days before the election between Leah Murray, director of the Institute of Politics and Public Service at Weber State University, and Jeff Jacoby, an op-ed columnist for the Boston Globe, with Murray arguing for the affirmative and Jacoby the negative. Fact that voting is not about whether an individual personally connects to the issues at hand, as voting is a civic act and thus acts to serve the community a voter is part of, rather than the individual themselves. She stressed that who the candidate is and whether the voter likes them is irrelevant, but rather it's the policy positions the candidate pushes that matter. However, Jacoby felt otherwise. He represents the group of people who feel alleviated from voting if they do not connect with the policies being argued on a personal level. He argued that voting is a right, not a duty, and felt as though America is turning voting into a fetish. While one may argue that the democratic system is flawed and thus feel more comfortable refraining from contributing to its systemic issues, this past election contained many notable factors that should have surpassed the morality of partaking in our current political system. With the safety and well-being of women, people of color, and the LGBTQ community being put in jeopardy based on the election's winner, voters should have realized that the election was not merely about policy, but rather human rights. Voters, particularly those who did disagree with Trump's policies but didn't feel overly compelled to vote for Kamala, should have understood that by not voting, they were still opposing the fight for human rights.
Like in Cabaret, too many people did not feel the urgency to actively prevent the war on humanity hurling towards us and are now left to face the fallout of their actions, or lack thereof, unable to change the outcome that their decision led to.
Moving to our second talking point, I'd like to discuss myself, of course, as I'm your MC. I first want to discuss the notion of masked characters, which, for our purposes, we are defining as those that have iconic masks, either literally or through immediately identifiable facial makeup that represents the character regardless of what the actor underneath may look like. In Catherine Hode's writings on the metal band Ghost, she writes that the isolation of the band members' real identities from their musical performance complicates traditional modes of knowing the performer, but in turn enables the formation of a multitude of connectivities, as audiences utilize masked bodies as sites upon which to project their desires and fantasies. In short, separating the performer from the character makes knowing the performer complicated, but allows audiences to project themselves and their experiences onto the masked character as the performance progresses. By these terms, the MC is a masked character, and his maskedness allows his actor to completely disappear into the role, concealing any biases or markedness that comes with the actor in any direction, bringing the character to the absolute forefront and thus presenting only the entertainer that the audience craves. This is present in the several iterations we've seen of the MC throughout its production history. Joel Grey, Alan Cumming, Eddie Redmayne, and Ilya Choprov in the Molody Theatre production in Ukraine as an honorable mention. All of these MCs' looks are different, but there is something about each of them that is just so distinctly and identifiably MC. Notably, each MC's look is changed to better suit the narrative presented in their respective productions, and as such, the MC himself becomes a vessel for the varying political messaging of each iteration of Cabaret, all tied, of course, to the idea of complacency as a means of inadvertent violence. Accordingly, due to his position as both a masked entertainer for the audiences of the Kit Kat Club and Cabaret itself, and his dramaturgical position as a political vessel, the MC almost exists outside the narrative, bridging the gap between the world of the musical and our own. This brings me to Adam Lambert, one of the MCs of the current Broadway run.
One of the big themes of the show is anti-Semitism. And there's a scene in the musical where I sing a song to a gorilla.
Yes.
And I'm saying, it's called If You Could See Her.
Through My
And the
Eyes.
idea is to comment on the scene that happened previous to this song, which is with an older couple, one's Jewish, one's not, and talking about the challenges that they're up against being together in that society. And so it's satire. It's supposed to be like, yeah, we're back in the nightclub and we're doing a cute little number, but it's actually about a really dark, sad thing, about how society sees people, and they make it into the gorilla being the Jewish person. So at the end of the song, I say, if you could see her through my eyes, she wouldn't look Jewish at all. And sometimes people in the audience, there are a few people here and there, they've had a few too many to drink during the intermission, they're not listening. and they're not getting the message of the show because the beginning is so permissive and fun and free. And sometimes it gets a laugh as if it were like a joke.
Yeah.
And there have been a few shows, one in particular where this person commented, and I stopped and I looked at the audience. I said, no. This isn't comedy. Yeah. Pay attention.
Yeah.
The MC's unique positionality allows for a sense of meta-theatricality in his performance, one where he can jump in and out of the narrative while remaining in character, should his actor want to draw attention to certain moments of political commentary that run parallel to our current political climate. The MC as a political vessel is made clearest, however, through the ending of the show itself.
One notable feature of Cabaret is that while the ending featured in the show is always poignant, its message and delivery are not always consistent. We can look at 4 different versions of Cabaret's final moments and hypothesize what each rendition is aiming to convey to its audience, given the context of the rest of the show. The production initially ended with the MC exiting the stage, leaving the audience alone with the consequences of their actions. Cabaret works to immerse its audience into the world of the Kit Kat Club, encouraging them to leave their troubles at the door. However, this ending assumes a Brechtian methodology in that it employs devices that force audiences to remove themselves from the world of the play. With the only figures remaining in the theater space being the viewers, audience members are pushed to reflect on their own complacency during the show. The twinkling lights have turned off, the glamorous costumes have left the stage, and all that remains for audiences to look at is their idle bodies and the knowledge of what will happen to the characters they had grown so fond of moments prior. We next see the 1972 film adaptation in which the production ends with the MC reprising his opening number, Willkommen. Willkommen repeats the phrase, Willkommen, bienvenue, willkommen. Here the audience receives a greeting in German, French, and English. However, the reprise ends with the send-off, Auf Wiedersehen, à bientôt. This moment mimics the beginning of the song with a German and then a French pleasantry. However, it is notably missing the English translation that we hear at the start of the song. It has been theorized that this is done to draw attention to the final outcomes of the characters in the show. With the direct translation of the song's final lyrics being, "Goodbye, see you soon," it makes perfect sense that English is not included in this send-off. With the assumption that many of the show's viewers are English-speaking, the musical refuses to provide an implication that the audience will see the characters soon, as we know this is not the case considering the rise of the Nazi regime. The musical's 1998 revival contains what is known as the most popular ending. In this production, the final moments consist of one last costume reveal from the MC. As he removes his coat, he dons a Jewish concentration camp uniform with a Star of David and an upside-down pink triangle, marking him as a member of the LGBTQ+ community. This production chooses to highlight the mass victimization of 1930s Germany and stresses that ignorance and denial failed to protect the show's characters from their fatal ending. Finally, the most recent production of Cabaret, directed by Rebecca Frecknell, premiered on the West End in 2021 and transferred to Broadway in 2024. Rather than position the audience as victims left to bear the forces of the Nazis, Frecknell chose to place the accountability of the demise of 1930s Germany in the hands of the viewers. The production ends with every character in the show removing their costumes to reveal that they are Nazis. With this choice, the audience quickly learns that they spent the show on the same side as those causing tremendous harm unto others, reinstating the idea that complacency is a form of violence in itself.
And that is the end. Take us home! You have to summarize it for the audience.
Are they stupid? They just watched the video.
Whatever. It's clear that Cabaret is a powerful piece of political theater that has been used to make commentary on various political moments throughout history.
Starting at Nazism and complacency during World War II, and made fresh again with the most recent US election and their new administration.
In this video, we've proved that through the theme of complacency that motivates the entire musical,
And the character and function of yours truly.
and the different takes on the endings that have been seen in the show's production history, Cabaret is a very special show, one that can be molded to reflect on.
And comment on a myriad of political issues, those that have been performed before and those yet to be examined.
But that's just politics.
And what has that got to do with us?
See you next time!
Or not!
Did you like our video?
See, we told you you would have fun.
There are no troubles here.
There are no troubles here!